Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I've got a first impressions to do for you today. I'm going to try to keep this relatively brief because this is just the first impressions. This knife just came out of the box about 24 hours ago now, and so I've had it in pocket, I've checked it out sufficiently, I've played with it, I've had it in hand, so I feel ready to do a first impressions. The full review is going to come in about a week after I've carried this sufficiently, done some cutting with it, tested it to what I think is a reasonable amount to be able to go ahead and say some sincere thoughts about it. So, real quick, before I jump in, again, I'm going to try to be somewhat fast with this. I got this knife for a specific reason. First of all, I got it from River's Edge Cutlery. If you don't know River's Edge Cutlery, you haven't been watching me for very long, because they're my favorite. I order from them all the time. But I decided I wanted to order a Japanese Spyderco, because I've never owned one, and a Chinese Spyderco, because I've never owned one. So I got a Tenacious, which is a Chinese Spyderco, and I got this. This is the Salt 2, specifically the Wharncliffe plain edge. So why have I never owned one? Let's get that out of the way real quick. I've never owned one, and I'll probably talk about this again in the review, but I've never owned a Japanese Spyderco because I don't really like backlocks, don't really like FRN handle scale material that often, and my comfort zone and my budget of what I like to buy these days generally just doesn't usually fit this mold. It's usually almost never a backlock until I got my S90V fluted carbon fiber native not long ago. I didn't really have any backlocks other than like junk drawer knives. Backlocks just don't do anything for me. I do not prefer them as a locking mechanism. And I don't own a lot of plasticky knives. And what I associate with the Japanese factory is the Delica, the Endura, that type of knife, right? So this is a Delica, from what I understand. I'm not the expert on these yet. I'm trying to learn here. This is my first experience with the Japanese Spyderco, remember that, so don't chew me apart if there's some minor difference from a Delica. But from what I understand, this is a Delica in H1 steel that's designed for corrosion resistance. But the handle, the size, the weight, this is a Delica. It's just a very specific type of Delica. So the Salt series from Spyderco is all like this. It's all either H1 or LC200N steel, and you get usually these bright yellow colors, although I think they do some all black versions now as well, and you get corrosion resistant hardware, and it's designed for corrosion resistance, which is great news because here's the reality. If I was buying just a Delica, I don't even know what steels at the moment you can buy a Delica in, but let's say it's an S30V Delica. Would I ever carry that knife? Nope. I could carry it to check it out, but I already know that compared to other knives I have in my collection, I know where my preferences lie. And so it just wouldn't make it into pocket. I don't want a Delica for myself at the moment. Does that mean I think they're bad knives? Do I think they're poorly made? Do I think that they should not exist? Oh, Delicas are fine, but they're not really for me. So, deciding to try a Japanese Spyderco because I'd never owned one, I didn't want to just buy a Delica. This, all of a sudden, makes a lot of sense because H1 blade steel, total corrosion resistance, total corrosion resistant hardware, handle material, everything about this knife is designed for corrosion resistance. All of a sudden, instead of just being another knife in my collection and in a configuration that I probably wouldn't carry, this becomes a very specific tool for me. My idea behind getting this specific Delica, if you want to call it that, this is a Salt 2, so it's not technically called a Delica. I don't know how that whole relationship between this and the Delica work, frankly. Again, not the expert. This Salt 2 is a knife that for me, especially with it being summer now, all of a sudden makes a lot of sense. Because will this go in my pocket often? No. But if I'm going kayaking, which I plan to do quite a bit this summer, will this go in my pocket then? 100%. If I'm going fishing, which I plan to do at least a couple of times this summer, is this knife going to go in my pocket? 100%. If I'm going to the beach and I want to bring a knife with me, which I bring a knife everywhere, is this going to be the knife that I clip into the pocket of my board shorts? 100%. I own another knife that is focused on corrosion resistance, the Quiet Carry Waypoint. But that knife with Vanex Super Clean Steel, which dumps on H1. I'm not gonna mince any words here. Vanex Super Clean is a way better steel than H1 because H1 is only really good at corrosion resistance from what I understand. Edge retention suffers. It's not the worst steel at edge retention, but it's not great. And I don't know even about toughness, but this is a corrosion resistance focused steel. That Quiet Carry has great edge retention, good levels of toughness, and it's super corrosion resistant. But it's also made of titanium. The liner lock is LC200N. The material selection has driven up the cost on that one pretty significantly, and the way it's made, frankly. It's not like you're just buying those materials. That knife came together super well, but it's a $300 knife. This knife is well under $100. I think it's right around $80, if I remember what I paid. 80, 85 maybe? I think it's right around 80. I don't know. Somewhere right around there. I'll link it down to River's Edge Cutlery site so you can see exactly what it costs there. But this knife, I don't feel as worried about it falling out of my pocket and losing it forever. It wouldn't be a good day if that happens, but would it really, really get me upset like it would if my Quiet Carry Waypoint fell in the water and it was gone forever? This is a easier knife to take out in situations like that and just not have worry about jumping in the water with it still in my pocket. Like, to have a knife that's built like this that I could just be that carefree with is a really, really cool thing to me. Now, I don't recall before having this ever holding a Delica. I'm sure I did at some point, but I don't remember it. It's not something that's stuck with me. I'm sure I've had a friend who's had one, or I've picked one up in a knife shop or something, but I just don't really remember it. So I was really pleasantly surprised when I pulled this out of the box and found that the ergos, for me, are phenomenal. This knife, in terms of comfort in hand for me, oh my goodness, and a saber grip, this thing kills it. It's really good. Hammer grip, also fantastic. Draw cut, not something I foresee really doing that much with this knife. Maybe cleaning a fish or something, I don't know. It's fine. It's not like incredible like it is in a saber grip, but it's fine. Reverse grip, turns out it's pretty freaking great, which with this Wharncliffe, that looks a little bit murdery. I guess reverse grip draw cut, again, not something I really think I'm going to be doing with this knife, but it's okay. So in a saber grip though, wow, this thing shines. It's really, really good. The way that they've shaped this handle for my hand fits excellent, like really, really good. The way that they've contoured this FRN as well on the edges, it's super smooth, but not like glossy, slippery smooth. It's still got this like matte, kind of like slightly grainy texture to it that you get from this type of plastic. I don't know, it feels really cool to me. I don't mind at all the roughness here in the center of the scales. It feels good in hand to me. If I run my fingers against it, it's a little rough, I guess, but it feels great to me in hand. The blade shape, killed it. This knife is available in a couple of different blade shapes, I think. But this one immediately, when I saw it, I knew was the one that I wanted to get. It's got a great hollow grind. I wouldn't call it thin behind the edge. This feels thicker behind the edge pretty significantly if my fingers aren't lying to me than like the PM2 Para 3. I would guess it's over at or around maybe even more than 30 thousandths behind the edge. It's not like a super thin slicey little thing, but again, this knife is kind of like a bruiser tool for me. I'm not going to be processing a bunch of cardboard with this knife. The edge retention isn't there. This wouldn't be the knife that I'd pick for that kind of thing. This is like pulling a knife out while I'm fishing because I need to cut something while I'm fishing. If I'm on a kayak, need to cut a piece of cordage or some seaweed or whatever it is, like whatever comes up that I need to cut in a moment, I'm going to be able to pull this out, and it's got a great edge on it, and it's sharp, and it's kind of robust in the way that it's thick behind the edge. So I feel like that might help a little bit with the edge retention. I don't know. I'm not like a specialist on that subject, but for it being H1 steel and not being super focused on edge retention, I'd rather not have it super thin and kind of unstable behind the edge, if that makes sense. I could be wrong about that, but that's the way my brain works. So I'm fine with the way this blade is ground. I think it also looks great. This hollow saber grind looks really cool, especially with this Wharncliffe shape. It's just a cool looking knife to me. It almost, because of that slope, looks like it's a hawkbill, like it has curve to it, but it doesn't. It's a straight edge. Anyway, this thing, first impressions are just really solid on it. if this knife was in different materials and was just like a normal Delica, I wouldn't be nearly as excited about it. But because this is a Salt 2 and not a Delica, because this is something I could leave sitting in salt water and not worry about, and I can take with me on all of my like summer adventures where water is involved this season, it gets me pretty stoked. So does it have a fun fidgety action, which is normally important to me? Nope, not at all. Can't Spidey flick it. Doesn't drop shut. I mean, I can like drop it to my knuckle kind of thing like you do with a backlock. I can operate it one-handed, which is good. That's important to me on a knife. I don't want to have to use 2 hands on a knife, especially one that's kind of a tool that I might need to get out and use my other hand to hold something. Like, I need to be able to operate it, which I can. But this isn't like a knife that's fun in a fidgety way. Not even a little bit. But it's super functional, and it feels like a tool to me, which is exactly what I wanted out of it. So I'm really excited to start putting some mileage on it. I've already made a couple of points to just get it wet and put it in my pocket wet to make sure I didn't see any corrosion anywhere on it. Nothing, literally nothing. The other day I stuck it in a fountain, which turns out had some pretty hard water in it because there was like gnarly water spots when it was dried up and I pulled it out of my pocket. But those water spots wiped right off, and as you can see, the finish looks good as new. I haven't really cut much of anything other than I did open one Amazon package with it, so just threw some tape, and then I cut a piece of the cardboard off to feel how the edge did. Of course, if any knife doesn't do well at cutting through tape and cardboard at this point, then I will let you know. But of course, this did fine at cutting through that kind of stuff. I won't own a knife that can't do that kind of thing, unless it's really specific to some other kind of purpose. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. This knife, so far, so very good. I'm really, really stoked that I'm giving it a try. And again, I'm really stoked that it's this version. The Salt makes so much more sense to me than the Delica or the Endura. And I'm pretty sure in the Salt platform, you can get the bigger sizes too, like the Endura and maybe even the Endella. I don't know. I'm seriously so, like, my knowledge of the Japanese-made Spydercos to begin with is so shallow. That when you start talking about versions and even names of them, I get mixed up real quick. But this is called a Salt 2, and it's cool because it's an H1 steel. It's super corrosion resistant, and it's this bright yellow color, which makes it kind of high vis and makes sense, and it feels more like a tool. Like, this is kind of like a marine tool. Not marine in the sense of like the branch of the military, but like sea environment. Yeah, it's cool. Thanks again to River's Edge Cutlery for carrying cool stuff like this, and for always being awesome and shipping stuff super fast, and for being so supportive of my channel. Genuinely, if you're looking to buy a knife and River's Edge Cutlery has it, get it from River's Edge Cutlery, because they're just a great group of guys over there, and they're awesome. And they bring some of the coolest, if not the coolest, I would argue the coolest, Spyderco exclusives. So they deserve all of my support so that they can keep coming out with the coolest exclusives that come from Spyderco. Heck, maybe they'll do a rec Delica thing at some point, and OD and PVD flat dark earth on a Delica. I don't know. One can dream, right? That would be a Delica I'd own, because love them. Anyway, that's the Salt 2. So there's a full review coming on this. Keep an eye out for that. And in the meantime, I'll be trying to pack in some experiences with it so I can give it a nice, fair, and worthy review for you guys.